Our next presenter is Carole-Ann, and it's my pleasure to present Carole-Ann, who was at the very beginning of this decision intelligence movement. And even when it was not called No Decision Camp, it was initially RuleFest, and then IntelliFest, and then Carole-Ann suggested to rename this event in Decision Camp, and and she was the first chair of this event. And Carole-Ann, I think every year presents something new. And 10 years ago, Carole-Ann with Carlos started new company, Sparkling Logic, and they created a beautiful decision intelligence platform that has a lot of unique features, and it would be especially interesting. They always innovate, and what new in their product and how they use this product in the real world, that's usually what Carole-Ann presents, and I expect the same today. Carole-Ann, please take over.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Thank you for a nice introduction. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. As Jacob just introduced, my passion is decision management, of course, but it's also to help educate the community on what is going on how the technology can help, and try to make those sessions as educational as I can. So that's really the focus of that session, is not to talk about theory and how AI works, but more to make it real. What do people actually do using those technology? What's happening at the moment, so that you can see if you're ahead in some aspect, if you're behind on some aspects, and helping you putting together a roadmap for you to make your systems smarter. So obviously, in the last couple of years, AI has morphed into more of a topic of LLMs and how systems like ChatGPT can help companies, and has been interesting because the awareness in the world of people that are not from our industry has grown significantly. People in parties, wherever you go, in any social context, will latch on to artificial intelligence, will ask questions. So I've ended up in a lot of picnics and barbecues and other events, other parties, where nurses or other doctors were asking me questions and telling me about how they're thinking about using it, which I found really fascinating. So there is a real change in our world, at least in terms of awareness, in terms of accessibility to those technologies, that I think is helping the entire world of artificial intelligence become more appealing and more ready to be used at a different scale than what it has been. The aspect that obviously is always dear to my heart is how to make those AI technologies actionable. How can they actually help the system? I think early on there was some experimentation about how technologies can be integrated. And some aspects sounds exciting for a demo, but not necessarily as practical to use. And over the last few years, I think all of those use cases have become more real, and some of them have delivered real value. So that's what I would like to talk about today. Let me try to move to the next slide. So if some of you attended BBC this year, just a few months ago in the spring, you might have attended one of our sessions. We co-presented with Naeem, or I co-presented with Naeem at CNR Software, and we talked about AI, obviously, but mostly in their context. CNR Software, if you're not familiar with them, is a company that delivers solutions for financial services companies and pretty much any kind of credit department within companies. So it might be a telecom company or healthcare, or it doesn't have to be a financial services, but they are definitely helping them on their credit interactions. So it might be to approve a line of payment, to approve a loan to their customers, to help them in case of difficulties. They started originally more focused on collections and recovery, hence the name of CNR Software, but now they are really more holistically focused on credit and risk, which happens to match the same initials for their name. So brilliant marketing on their part. But what we realize working together is that there are different layers, different aspects of AI and how AI can help them. Obviously, in financial services, um, intelligence and AI at large, to not pigeonhole it as LLMs. But decisions are everywhere within the system. Everything they do is about decision. Eventually, it's about money, but the success of the company will be in terms of how smartly they make decisions. Do they lend money to the right person? And when they don't, or if the person has some other circumstances that make it difficult for them to repay, how do they assist them towards the goal of financial well-being? If everything goes well, how can we help them acquire more credit limits so that they can grow from a financial perspective? So because of that, we've always seen from the really early day a big adoption of those kind of technologies, everything decision related, may it be models, predictive models, may it be business rules, and all the way to now the LLMs, being able to assist them in one way or another. I think what becomes overwhelming, or what was overwhelming a few years ago, was that there were so many different aspects of AI within the system that um, companies had a difficult time figuring out where to use them and how to integrate them. So CNR came up with this pyramid of different aspects that can help the systems that they use to build their technology or their solutions. Once again, for the goal of financial well-being. So this is the top of their pyramid, and all the layers you see underneath will be how technology is supporting them for this objective. Each one of them might be focused on one aspect of technology, or might be combining multiple AI technologies, but thinking more in terms of capabilities to support their end goals than thinking about technology per se. So above their central orchestration, if you think, for example, about a use case of collections and recovery, because that will be an easy use case to find examples at each layer. You can find what they are recommending using or what they are using for their own solutions. So starting with AI accelerated delivery is really what we refer to in terms of decision management technologies, how we can build AI agents or smart assistants that can help accelerate the automation of those decisions, as well as the management day to day, the changes that need to happen day in and day out to tweak those strategies to become or to remain always competitive in the specific market. This is where you will find technologies like business rules, obviously for automation, um, but looking at a more modern uh, infrastructure, or looking from an infrastructure perspective, the agentic framework is the way you can really disperse those decisions within the fabric of the system. Jumping up to a higher level, what we call hyper-personalization, is really leveraging machine learning so that we can learn from data. And this is this hyper-personalization aspect, being able to pinpoint who is going to be the good apple versus the bad apple in the when the applicants come in and apply for a credit line. From the collections and recovery aspect, it will be how do we identify who has the willingness and the ability to repay? What will be the path to well-being that can be the most effective for the person? Which focusing on this well-being aspect, I think that's quite interesting that collections and recovery used to be more of a negative world where companies were trying to get their money back. But I want to focus on this financial well-being because the transformation of the last few years has been interesting on how to make those people not only get out of their predicament, but also how can they prevent being into those predicaments. So there is a movement to extend the detection, not to only help people that are already in a bad financial situation, but helping people detect that they are on the path to a bad situation. So the modeling, the machine learning capabilities can really assist with this early detection, early delinquency as part of the system. So definitely something that we have done in some ways in terms of integrating predictive models within the decisions, but using a different terminology for this industry. Climbing up to intelligent insight, access to metrics, access to decision intelligence or decision analytics, so that we can measure, knowing what's going on, or being able to tweak the system is only good if you can tweak it for better. And better is something you can only know if you're measuring the business quality of your decisions. So the measurement is becoming more integrated with the decisioning so that we can have faster cycles to keep improving those models and the decision strategy. What has come really from those new LLM capabilities in the past few years is also the way to engage. There were some attempts early on to use rules and other capabilities to assist in the call center. But I think those capabilities have grown significantly with ChatGPT and the likes to assist in those call centers. And that works in both ways. This is what you see, a split between the cognitive customer engagement and the augmented agent. On one hand, you want to use the LLMs and AI in general to better understand what people are asking for. They may not be using the right words. They may not be saying what they really think. If you've been married, you know what I'm talking about. It might be, it might require some higher insight to know exactly what people are really willing to do or what they are really asking as part of the conversation. So using LLMs to be able to decipher and to translate that into more specific bullet points for the agents, or uh, providing that insight to the augmented agents that might be not human, but more AI powered, so that they can drive the conversation instead of scripts that will be read by agents. Now we can have LLMs that engage in the conversation, so that eventually human can be involved when the conversation needs that human touch and another level of discussion. Um, but we can drive a lot, and we can assist a lot of those conversations using technologies. So in both ways, understanding what's really going on and driving the conversation in a smart way to get to our goal of well-being. So I spent a little bit of time on this pyramid that came from that presentation, because I think it's really interesting to see how the technologies are actually helping in that use case of collections and recovery. And from what they have shared with me, they see that pyramid and all those different aspects really improving the experience, the journey for their customers, in a sense that they used to struggle figuring out not just CNR as a solution provider, but their customers as a financial institution or services that try to create this platform to engage with their own clients, having to balance between cost and value. When they lowered the cost of their platforms, it did have a negative impact on the value. If they try to improve the value of their solutions, it typically increased the cost. And none of those two strategies was really a good outcome for the customer. The customer was a little bit left out. So there was no happy customer in the mix. And now using AI, they are better able to increase the value they deliver to those customers without necessarily increasing the cost of the systems, and at the same time focusing on the happiness, if you will, of the customer, which translates into better financial well-being, which is a good thing for their clients, obviously. If they can all get out of debt, that will be a positive outcome, not only for them individually, but for the economy at large. So there is a lot of goodness out of artificial intelligence. So I want to turn that into or to deconstruct, if you will, this pyramid a little bit to give more specific examples of how we're turning the complex data that we have in our systems into actionable intelligence. How I mentioned for CNR, from a collections and recovery, but also from an origination or account management or fraud aspect, having a financial, healthy financial situation individually or collectively for the organization is their end goal. but that's not necessarily the goal of any organization. So I want to emphasize that those use cases or this pyramid approach does not apply just to financial services or just to CNR. It's really an approach that can be applied to any industry. And the ultimate goal at the top of the pyramid may not be the same, may not be always financial well-being. It might be in the healthcare system. It might be the overall well-being from a health perspective of their clients eventually, etc. So there may be different objectives that we're measuring, and that will be the key role of our decision analytics as part of the measurements that we do. But it does not minimize the value of this separation of capabilities. And again, more in terms of capabilities than in terms of technologies. So one thing that we've been focusing on, there's been quite a few decades since data warehousing was the goal, to just accumulate data. It changed and evolved with the ability to capture more significant volume of data. But I think we're in that phase where we're making this data usable, and we have more avenues for making it usable. And that's what AI obviously is very good at. And and this is how businesses can use the technology to gain that competitive edge that they need. One of the use cases that CNR shared with me was the ability, just as one metric, so that you have one data point to latch onto. But using this automated risk screening as part of their systems with all of those different layers we just talked about, they've been able to reduce compliance risk by 85%. And once again, there is direct and indirect goodness out of this number. Reducing compliance risk to me equate to violations and fines and sometimes more negative outcome for the organization, which is a direct benefit if you can reduce them, but also thinking about the well-being, the financial well-being at a higher level. If organizations are within compliance boundaries, they will be able to contribute in a better way to a healthy economy at their level, or healthy economy at a larger level. So compliance is often seen as a negative, but sometimes there is a reason why we have compliance we need to adhere to. So the challenge, I think, that was overwhelming, and that keeps being overwhelming, is how diverse AI is. I believe if we ask each one of us individually in the room today, what is artificial intelligence, I bet each one of us will have a different answer to that question. If you're coming from a rules background, that might be where you will be started. All the more descriptive logic that we can equip our systems with. If you're coming from an analytics background, it might be predictive analytics. If you're more of the newer generations of LLMs, and most people we talk to in the street, honestly, are thinking that AI is only LLM. If you're older, you might think it's expert systems. If you're and so on. So there are really very, very, very diverse ways to approach intelligence in our AI world, uh, which makes it more difficult to define it. And nowadays, with the LLMs and the Gen AI, we're seeing more diverse use cases of generating asset, generating conversations, generating art, as well, using using the technology versus a more historical way to crunch the numbers and build models that can quote unquote think, but that can predict the likelihood of any specific event for our ultimate clients. It's not just that. It's not just about the AI that we traditionally integrate in our financial services system. There's computer vision, there's natural language processing, there's different unstructured type of data that we can apply our intelligence to. So that makes that world even bigger. It's about automizing the systems, um, uh, which once again is making it a larger problem, because it's not just about the technology itself, it's how you use the technology. So in terms of optimization, I'm going to use um, a different path than what Jacob would typically call optimization. But optimizing our strategies might be a technique that has nothing to do with solving an optimization problem, but that might have to do with the way you approach it in terms of operationalizing it. And I'm thinking about champion challenger. How can you run an experiment saying, I will be harsher with this group and I will be nicer with this other group? Am I getting better results in terms of my business performance with one versus the other? I'm still optimizing. I'm optimizing the strategy rather than optimizing the problem. So hopefully, with this long introduction on the problem that we have in front of us to organize our techniques, we're making it even worse. We're adding insult to the injury with hybrid AI approaches nowadays. I think that for many of those layers, we're not thinking about one technology, one technique at a time, but we're often thinking about multiple together or leveraging multiple together. Think in the last, 2 or 3 decades, we've been really combining more systematically predictive analytics and business rules for strategies. So that's one aspect of AI. And now we can combine any of those with the LLMs, with um, optimization, and so on. So our solution space has grown as well. So let me focus once again in maybe a little bit more structured way on each one of those specific problems we're solving, and that are not just talking about what we could do in the world, but what our customers are doing, what's really happening out there. So I'll start with the LLMs because everybody wants to start with the LLMs. And Gen AI and LLMs as the first bulk of technologies at the top of our pyramid. So the LLMs can analyze the unstructured world very efficiently. I mean, it's mind blowing how effective those technologies are. I hope you can agree to that. It's very impressive how you can extract sense and meaning out of all of those interactions. So where we have seen those, and the LLM aspect more specifically, the more efficiently in our systems, in our financial services world, has been mostly focused on sentiment analysis, being able to make sense of conversations in the call centers or offline communications, analyzing it, really understanding and categorizing those conversations to better automate a solution for them. So we've seen quite a bit of that sentiment analysis. Let me move on to Gen AI. Oh, I need to speed up just a little bit because I don't want Jacob to be upset with me. So let me go through those examples because I want to get to where I think it's going to be going. So Gen AI, in terms of generating content out of what has been analyzed and where we are, obviously in our call centers has to do with generating the conversation, engaging and reacting to where those people in distress are going. It's, I think, in the context of collections and recovery, you're adding a lot of stress on the situation of those clients that are in bad situation and they know it. So some of them might be, kind of lying, let's say, because they're embarrassed about their situation. In order to help them, we need to be honest on both sides and having being able to drive the conversation in a way that is statistically more effective helps really achieve a goal that talented humans will be better at doing, but not necessarily every single agent. So that's really increased the quality of that engagement component using both aspects of Gen AI and LLMs. Predictive analytics, obviously in financial services, we see that at all levels with our credit scores. For those of you that are not in a country that is making a big use of bureaus and credit scores, the idea is really to use as many predictors, not necessarily as many, but use a good set of predictors to calculate in a mathematical way what is the likelihood of being able to repay, or if I give someone a credit card, are they going to be able to use it so that I can make money out of it, but without becoming delinquent and incurring a loss on the bank side. But there are lots of different aspects to it. Just the ability to repay is just one. The willingness to repay, strangely enough, is not necessarily the same calculation. So being able to forecast behavior is something that we've seen being integrated as part of the systems for decades. I think the early pioneers started 70 years ago, creating those models from a mathematical perspective, and they are not going away. On the contrary. Champion Challenger is once again not necessarily as much of a technology as it is a technique. For those of you that are not familiar with Champion Challenger, the idea is that after you've tested your strategies, your thresholds, your appetite for risk or lack thereof, the next thing you can do to really stress test your strategies is only to put them into production. You can test based on historical data how good this strategy is going to do compared to that one, but you will not know for a fact that it's better until you actually deploy it. So Champion Challenger allows you to randomly assign the transactions that are coming in to your champion, which is your established strategy, or to one or multiple challengers. So if you have one champion and two challengers, you may want to send a third of your transactions to one or the other. So one to the champion, one third to a champion, one third to your first challenger, one third to your second challenger, and measure which group is actually performing the best, so that after let's say a few months of running your experiment, you can promote challenger number 2 to become your new champion, and maybe introduce some additional challengers to compare. In terms of reality of champion challenger, it has been used for decades, has been used for a very long time. This is not a new technique, a new approach, has been there for decades. But at least on our side, we still do not see champion challenger being used outside of credit risk that much. Within the credit industry, I think almost every single financial institution we work with is using champion challenger to some extent. But outside of financial services, it remains quite rare that it's being used. The AI-powered dashboards, starting with dashboards to real-time dashboards to AI-powered dashboards. This is something that I said is absolutely necessary in order to select your new champion in terms of champion challenger, but just to monitor your systems. And obviously, dashboards have been in place for decades as well. But in terms of taking it to the next level, and being able to run them in real time, it remains an after the fact measurement. I think companies are still more, at least in terms of what we see a lot more that are still struggling to operationalize their decisions, and the advanced monitoring tends to be a phase 2 of the project. It's not always true. Obviously, some of them are putting together those platforms, especially in financial services. But outside of it, I think that it's something they want to do, but they want to complete the automation first and then engage into this monitoring at a higher level as a second phase. So taking those technologies, those techniques to the next level, what became really apparent in our world is that our business users, our business analysts, they might have different titles in different companies in financial services. They will tend to be risk analysts or, titles of the like. They have become more data-driven in their decision-making set of tools and technologies. And this is a shift from even 10 or 20 years ago, where the numbers, the data, the dashboarding, all of that was more on the with the data scientists and those that were producing those strategies or those rating tables or all of those elements of the decisions. But now we see a shift that those business analysts are becoming more mindful of the data and being able to leverage the data so that they can make smarter decisions and be more competitive within the organization. So this is also enabled because of the technology, because the technology has become more user-friendly. Now that you can add an LLM in front of, or sorry, an agent, a smart agent, some kind of a chat GPT or a copilot in front of the systems, it becomes so much easier to ask for the data to be extracted, to ask for analysis to be performed. So what used to be a multi-week or multi-month project to extract those metrics or to perform this analysis is becoming more readily available to those business analysts to help them. And as a result, the systems are also becoming more intelligent in terms of AI, more capable, and that allows to deploy even more of those technologies as part of the systems. When we think about Gen AI and the LLMs, a couple of years ago, I think a lot of the conferences were talking about the challenges of the prompts, and it was a different evolutions than our traditional AI related conversations. But it's true that being able to interact and to leverage it has to do with the way you guide it, and you become able to really express your needs. I think a lot of the technologies and a lot of companies that are around the table this week at Decision Camp have integrated some kind of AI, as in an assistant capability, an AI assistant capability within the technology. Uh, but the way you engage with it, what you ask, how it's integrated so that it can give you the right answer rather than a random conversation, has to do with how well you can guide that conversation. But if you're able to really express those prompts, if you will, and you can very efficiently describe what you want, Gen AI will be extremely capable of building what you need. And this is the huge promise of the agentic framework, to be able to have to disperse all of those agents so that they can do the work and be true to your guidance as a business analyst. And with that, I think that the business analyst of today, with the technologies of today and tomorrow, and in that vision of an agentic framework, have the front row seat, or they can be in the driver's seat for that revolution from an AI perspective, because I think they do have historically by trade the right set of skills to be able to engage and to really leverage those agents, because they know how to put requirements together for technology people. So if they can do that with developers, I think they can do that with smart agents. And this is what is quite exciting, or what should be quite exciting for our crowd of users, the people in this room today that are using those kind of technologies to automate the system, to know that now they don't have to automate in the same way they used to automate 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago. Now they do have a different way to leverage their skills and be 10 times or 100 times more productive with those kind of technologies. I think this is absolutely exciting, fascinating, my opinion. And the reason they can become those, what I would call architect of agentic orchestration, is because they know how to guide them. They do have that structured thinking that allows them to be organized in their heads and being able to better phrase it so that they can design all of those systems. They can uh, they can better decompose the bigger problem of how do we help our clients be financially well into sub problems, and those leverage each one of those layers of capabilities, but really understanding how they work together, how they collaborate as a stack to solve use case after use case and to improve the quality of those systems. They know the data because they were the ones um, requesting that we collect the data in the first place. And they know the difference between this piece of data and that piece of data. What's the difference between the data that will be leveraged for ability to repay versus willingness to repay? To some people might seem like the same thing, but when you're an expert of the domain, it means something different. Talking to fraud experts, they absolutely master the data, and they can better guide those agents to leverage it, to interpret it. Um, and this is through the value of the English language, and how one word really means a different thing than a different word. The way you phrase things is really important. And for those that have written requirements, you must know that language is important. So I have high respect for business analysts, and high hope as to what their contribution is going to become in our AI world in a much greater capacity than ever before. Um, so just wanted to put together some kind of a definition for our agentic architecture with those autonomous AI agents that are being able to complete the tasks, to not only understand what is going on, but to also operate on it. I don't necessarily want to spend too much time on this slide because looking at the agenda, the program for the week, I think that there are lots of presentations that will go in more details on those different layers of understanding the world with the insight agents, being able to apply business logic at point decisions in the overall system, and then the execution engines that can take the decisions and run with it to engage the customer if we're talking about the call center, or to go and um, produce all the paperwork for some more regulated decisions, and etc. So the conclusion, or where I'm going with all of this presentation, is that we are finally seeing a, a, a tsunami, if you will, of change, where we always had a little bit of transformation from insight to impact, being able to do something with the data that we collected. This is not new. What is new is the size of that wave. It's not a ripple on the beach. We're talking about a tsunami changing completely the way people out there are thinking about adding intelligence to the system. I was mentioning earlier talking to a nurse about AI, and I was blown away being at those. My son just graduated from high school, so I did a lot of graduation parties and did not expect that I will end up in a conversation with a nurse telling me how she's taking some data, processing it with AI to be able to improve the quality of training programs for nurses. I mean, it's exceptional that now people that have nothing to do with technology in the way we know it, being able to think about it and think about not only, you know, how cool it is that we have a Terminator movie, but how can I use it as a nurse in my day-to-day job to make my life better. So that's a true change that is happening in terms of scale. And now, how can we help assist our business analysts transform and um, embrace this career growth in terms of having such an important role in the future, to be in the driver's seat for a lot of those systems, having more visibility than they have had ever, and to have higher impact. It does mean also being responsible, having ability to better explain how those decisions are being made. Um, uh, we at Sparkling Logic, we've integrated a lot of explainability, fairness models into our decisions, because our customers do need to um, have a bit better transparency into the bias that is in those systems, so that they can build better, more ethical systems than before. What we've seen as being more effective is not to try to tackle the whole thing at once, to chew the entire problem, but to start small, think big, have that vision of this agentic framework at a higher level, but start with little pieces to create your proof points. So traditional approach of smart, small, think big is what I think will help, because um, with AI, we do get engaged at all the levels of the organization. We've had more meetings with the security teams than before, if that's even possible, because now they all have to scramble and figure out how do they protect themselves as an organization. So being able to take a smaller piece of the equation, a smaller piece of the program, to um, uh, to focus on, will help get all of those layers of the organization work together, get their acts together, and prove success, and move on. The last thing we need is the promise. Now that we're back into the promise of AI, we don't want to disappoint the world. So we need to have to help our customers make those steps in a way that will ensure the success. So, as you can tell, I'm quite passionate about this evolution. I really believe it's going to change our world. And I'm quite excited about that. I hope you are too. So, with that, Jacob, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them, or give someone a few minutes to rest.
Yes, thank you, Carole-Ann. Very interesting, as usual. And please, we open for questions. Questions to Carole-Ann or to any other presenters. That's it was our last presentation, and we do have time for Q&A. Any questions? I can see comment from Jan. Message of the day: we are back in the promise of AI. It's ironic
Yes.
or not ironic. Different people take it differently. Jan, what is your take?
Okay, let me switch on the mic. Yeah, nice talk, Carole-Ann. It's all about AI today, and that's very good. About supporting and building models and executing models, but I didn't hear anyone say that we are not necessary anymore. So that's the good news.
I hope so. We're not only not necessary, sorry, lots of negations, but I think the ecosystem is growing. We have to embrace this hybrid world of AI. We cannot defend our island as to my technology is what AI is. It's really a true ecosystem. That's what is also um, very exciting.
Yeah, that's what I heard in all the stories. Let's embrace AI. It's so much extra value together with what we are doing and have been doing.
And I have a question for you guys. Do you also hear as much pushback as, let's say, 2 years ago? So once again, with AI becoming more visible in the news, I don't remember the last day I could turn on the TV and not hear about AI in some way in a conversation. But with all this visibility comes all the anguish. And I think 2 years ago it started like it happened in the 80s or whenever, a while ago when I started. Um, and I've heard people, obviously, once again say, is AI going to replace the human? Is AI going to take over the world? And I think in the last 2 years, as people have been using ChatGPT to ask every question in the world, um, I, I think in almost every dinner I had this summer with friends around the globe, I've seen people pull out their phone to ask AI a question at some point in time in dinner. But as people are getting used to asking those questions, and they might have some Alexa and other devices in their home, it seems like in the last 2 years specifically, the anxiety about AI has dispersed quite a bit. Um, do you see that as well? Do you see that there is less anguish and uh, more hope, more desire to embrace the technology from people outside our world? And I'm asking to, any one of you can just pick up the mic and contribute. Um, but that's definitely something I've seen evolve in the past 1 or 2 years. I don't know if silence is approval.
This question certainly will be addressed tomorrow during our panel Ask an Expert. And
I don't want to steal your thunder then.
No, it's okay. This is because we did have today already interesting discussion. There are positive views, there are very negative views, and it was a difference, for example, in views, what Tom DeBevois comments to IBM presentation. So it's still, I think it's a question. And it's that's why one of the objective of DecisionCAMP is to clarify this. And I don't think we're looking for a common position, but at least a different perspective. And tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we will have a very interesting presentation for people who wants to look beyond current hype and to cognitive AI. And this would be presentation by Peter Voss. And it would be certainly try not to miss this presentation. And at 1 o'clock, we will have this long-awaiting event, Ask an Expert. And this panel usually brings a lot of attention. If somebody has questions, just raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask now, or it would be end of this day, first day.
Jacob, the session tomorrow, Ask an Expert. Do we ask AI or a human expert?
Okay, that's another good question. Okay, you can ask your question before, and then we will see how humans would answer.
Okay.
Right?
See you tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you everybody for your attention, and I think it was an interesting first day. It's usually not simple day. And Carole-Ann, thank you for your presentation, and see you all tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Thank you, everyone. And I hope that you're enjoying the show. I apologize for not being able to be more present, but I'm on the other side of the world, so the calendar is a little difficult.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.